Hi y'all. Well, it's not really hot today, so I thought I would come outside and do a kind of a, what would I call it? A coming out video. Not coming out, but I know some of you, if not all of you, know that I lost 2 daughters, and I never really reiterated, or iterated, however you want to say it, on how it happened, and I decided that today would be the day. So, one reason was that we were outside, and we have a bush outside our window. That's the one you'll see I'm going to put up in the beginning of my video. And Bert was outside, and butterflies were all over the bush. And both of my girls loved butterflies. Dragonflies and butterflies. That was their thing. For my biological family, I had 5 kids. I had 3 boys, and then I had 2 girls that I wanted so bad. Because, you know, everybody's got to have a girl, right? So, never in my life did I think I would lose any of my children. But anyway, my daughter and her 3 kids were living in Kentucky, and I was out there volunteering at a lake out there, and it was for the Army Corps, and I loved it. And so she decided to move out there because we all thought we were going to try to stay there. But things happen, you know, so, well, let me back up, because my first daughter, not the oldest, the youngest, died first. She was 18, gonna be 19. But she was the most intelligent kid you could ever think of. I mean, she could count pennies to 100 by the time she was 2 years old. And I'm going to try to put pictures of them in here. But they were beautiful girls. But the youngest one we called Mouse. And Mouse grew up, and she had a baby of her own. And Stephanie, who was my oldest daughter, she had 3 kids, all boys. Well, my oldest daughter had gotten messed up with some bad people when she was a teenager, and she did start doing drugs. And I put her in rehab. I did everything I could think of to get her off the drugs. Well, when she lost her kids the first time, I took the kids. When she lost her kids the second time, I decided not to. And that was the hardest decision that I ever had to make. But I did it because I figured it would straighten her up. And because she did love her kids, you know, and she does. I don't know how she did it, but she took pretty good care of them. But anyway, I guess I need to concentrate on one of them at a time. They were very close, so to me, I think of them as twins. They were like 2 years apart. Okay, so long story short, let's start with the youngest one, Mouse. Mouse was going out with Stephanie, her sister, that day to go get a pizza. She had just got her a car, and her car, I guess, on the way back from the pizza, she had her daughter with her. The youngest daughter, Mouse, had her daughter with her. And the youngest daughter, the youngest daughter had her baby with her, who was like 12 months, well, no, about 15 months old. And on the way back, they were about a mile from the house, from their house, and they broke down with the car. So they had a friend, well, Mouse had a friend that she went to her house and asked her if she could give them a ride home because it was only an hour down the road. So, of course, she said yes, but she was half asleep. And she had done some kind of drug the night before, supposedly. But to make a long story short, they ended up, they got in the car, everybody put a seatbelt on except Mouse. And that was a rule in my car all their life. The car don't move if you don't have the seatbelt on. I don't care how old you are or whatever. That was my kids, you know. So, for some reason, Mouse didn't wear a seatbelt that day. Stephanie was in the back seat with Mouse's baby, who was in a car seat. This girl started swerving on the road, and Mouse told her, now this is all hearsay from Stephanie before she passed away. She told the girl, she said, hey, why don't you let me drive, because you look pretty messed up or tired or something. And so they started arguing, and Mouse tried to grab the wheel of the car, and she yanked it. Well, when she yanked it, she went across the road, she flipped the car, I don't know how many times. It was a Cherokee. She flipped it, I think my daughter said 3 or 4 times. My daughter, I'm making this short. My daughter, my oldest daughter, called me. She said, Mom, I need you. And I said, why? What's going on? She said, the ambulance is here. We had a bad accident. She said, Mouse don't look good. And oh, that killed me. I can't even tell you how bad it killed me. And I said, well, give her some CPR, because I taught all my kids how to do CPR. I did, all their life. She said, Mom, they're doing it, but she said, I really need you to be here. Well, at the time, Bert and I only had one car, and we lived about an hour away. So I called my other son, who lived down there, told him to get there, and that I was on my way. So I didn't know what was going on, and they told me to drive to the hospital and meet them there, the police or whatever. So I did, and called a few people to let them know what was going on up in Chicago, because they're not, you know, we were in Florida at this time, because that's where we lived. That's where I raised my kids, was in Florida. So it takes me a few minutes with this. So anyway, to make a long story short, when I pull up at the hospital and get out of the car, I see my son, and I see her boyfriend, who's the father of the baby, with the baby, and his mother. They're all crying. And my son, my middle son, was just sitting by a tree. And he was crying his eyes out. And I said, this does not look good. And I called him over to me. I said, what's going on? And he said, Mouse didn't make it, Mom. Oh, I was trying to be strong for everybody, and I broke out crying, but I was like, where is she? I want to see her, blah, 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 blah. He said, I don't know where they took her yet or whatever, but, so anyway, I said, well, where's your other sister, and I saw the baby there, so I knew the baby was okay. So I went inside, and Stephanie was in there, and she was in the emergency room, and they were giving her x-rays and all kinds of stuff. They were picking glass out of her, because apparently when they flipped the car and the glass all broke, Mouse went out the windshield. Yes, she went out the windshield, and when she did, the car had flipped again, and when it flipped again, she had long hair, and she had it in a ponytail. And when the car came back down, Stephanie said the car hit her ponytail and jerked her neck. So that's what killed her. But anyway, I'm trying to make this as short as possible, but I just want everybody to know, because there's so many things to know that I'm going to start doing in this channel about a lot of things, you know, in life. Make a long story short, the father of the baby, of course, he got the baby, you know, and they lived out there about an hour from me. And so Stephanie got to come home the next day, and her back, of course, was messed up and everything. And by that time, I knew she had been doing some drugs too. And so, to make a long story short, again, you know, this went on. And for 2 years, I didn't want to take a bath. I didn't want to talk to nobody. My anxiety was at an all-time high. I blamed myself, even though my daughter was already 18, you know, I blamed myself for everything. But even though I was always home with my kids, always explain things to them and not to do drugs and alcohol because of, you know, and but it didn't work. Just so you know, in some cases it does and some it don't. Some we all sit around and say, okay, well, maybe by the time they're 30, right? All right. So, my oldest daughter, who moved to Kentucky afterwards, because I needed to get away. I needed to get away. I was being a hermit. I didn't want to listen to any music. Anytime I heard any kind of song that we used to sing, because I used to dance with my kids and everything, I just couldn't take it. I would be in the Bible every day, you know. But my oldest daughter, she had quit eventually. She had quit because she had quit taking anything, because she I figured she would quit for her sister, because since they were so close, you know, and she had seen a bunch of her friends overdose and everything, so I thought that she would, you know, it would register. I really thought that. And at first it didn't. I think she got even more devastated from losing her sister. I know the boys were devastated as all get out. So she ended up going to surgery one day, and I had to take her to surgery, and they would not send her home with anything for pain, because she was honest with them and told them that she used to do, I don't know what she did, all kinds of things. But anyway, so they would not send her home with anything for pain. So that night, she started drinking vodka. She never was a drinker before. She started drinking vodka. I didn't know this. I found this out. But anyway, to make a long story short, she had been having pains in her side again, and I keep telling her, go back to the doctor. That's not normal. Something could be wrong. And, you know, she never did. She would take a Tylenol or whatever. So one morning, after we had moved back to Florida, and we did that because there just wasn't anything in Kentucky for us, and I just wanted to get by the rest of my kids and have her move back and around us so we could, you know, help out with her boys. But anyway, she called me one morning. It was exactly, if you can believe this, it was exactly 10 years to the day that her sister died. 10 years to the day. And she said, Mom, I'm throwing up blood. I don't know what's wrong with me. She showed it to me. I said, you get your ass to the hospital right now. That is not looking good. Go now. Don't wait. Don't wait for your boyfriend to get home from work to take you. Call an ambulance. So by the time he got home, she had passed out on the floor, which I didn't even know. To make a long story short, she went to the little country hospital they had there, and they left her sitting there throwing up blood for 3 hours. I didn't know that at first. I had called to see how she was, and they said, oh, she's sitting in the lobby. I said, she's been there for a while. Do you know that she's like throwing up a lot of blood? black blood. Oh, well, I'll tell them. I said, no, you don't need to tell them. You need to get her in there. I was getting pissed. But anyway, so then I couldn't get a hold of her. I had told her about it, and she said, Mom, they just been letting me sit here. I said, yeah, I told them about it. And then while I was on the phone with her, they called her back. And they ended up life-flighting her to a bigger hospital 2 towns over. And that night, the doctor called me, and he said, because I was getting a ticket, you know, to go out there with my youngest boy. We were going to fly out there. So he told me it's not looking good. Her blood pressure keeps dropping. I'm trying to keep it up. It's not working. He said she took, and this is the truth, she took a Tylenol and had a drink. And he tried to tell me he thought that's what happened, because that, I don't know, it can do something to your liver or something. So I can't prove it, you know, I don't know. But he told me that he thought that was the key to it all. Because, for one thing, all the stuff she did when she was young, it probably weakened her whole system. That's what I'm thinking from, because I took a drug counseling course, believe it or not. And her father, her biological father, was an addict. And we divorced when she was about 6, I think. And Mouse was about 4. But everybody says, oh, that's not hereditary unless the mom does it. I don't believe that. But anyway, because, you know, I don't know. I don't even know why I don't believe it. I see kids all the time, you know, with their parents, and their parents are doing this shit with them too. So, I mean, you know, we expect people to be good people, and then we have this crap, or the boyfriend's parents do it with your daughter or their son, or, you know. Anyway, I'm getting off track here. So the doctor called me at 1:30 in the morning, and he said, I don't know, he said, there's really nothing I can do. I'm trying to keep her blood pressure up. She's bleeding somewhere inside. I can't go look because she's not going to make it through the surgery. I was just, God, please give me strength. Don't take this daughter too, you know. But my son and I boarded a plane to go out there. And to make a long story short, something happened in Atlanta. We got overnighted to a hotel because something happened with the plane. And the next day when we got on the plane, I was like so anxious to get there. And I think it was her boyfriend that called me and told me she had already passed away. That was just really, really devastating to me. It really was. Because, you know, you always want to at least tell them goodbye. Why am I telling you guys this? Because sometimes we as parents don't recognize this shit that's happening early in life. No matter what. I mean, I used to be a 911 dispatcher. I used to see this kind of crap all the time. And so, you know, one time I was doing my 911 in Texas. This is when I was in Texas in 97, I think. I was a dispatcher for 911 in our neighborhood. And a call came in, and I could see it was from the number where my daughter had went to spend the night with a Dallas police officer, okay? This was a Dallas female police officer that was the mother of her friend, and she had promised me she was going to be home that night, but she ended up going to work, okay? Which my daughter told me before she died, well, she went to work, but we just said that because we knew you wouldn't let me stay without that. I said, you see? So what happened is, the lieutenant lived right behind the house where they were. And somebody who called 911 said, you need to get somebody over here. They're all fighting and drinking and blah, blah, blah. I said, is Stephanie there? She said, I don't know who Stephanie is, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, make a long story short, it don't matter who it is. It don't matter whose house it is. You know, just know where your kids are. Know what they're doing. And it's hard to keep up with them, especially when you were a single parent like me and had to work and I was going to college. And I said, I was still watching them. I was keeping up with them. Where are you? Who you with? Blah, 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 blah. But, you know, that's what happened. So she had weakened her immune system, weakened her liver, weakened her kidneys, weakened everything. And she passed away at 31 years old, a day after her sister passed away 10 years before. So, it's been rough. To say the least, it's been rough. And that's why now I'm real devastated, because Bert has a type of dementia, vascular dementia, that it's kind of different than like Lewy body dementia or frontal lobe like Bruce Willis has, because this is a dementia that usually people have about 5 years to live or less after they're diagnosed. And I don't want to lose nobody else. And I know, you know, it's life, you know, and I've been trying to build my YouTube channel so I'll at least have income, some extra income. We'll just see how it goes. But I wanted to let everybody know exactly how my two girls passed away, because I always talk about it in one way or another, or I'll show a picture. After Stephanie passed away, and we were still, we had already adopted 2 other kids. So we have another young son and another young daughter. So they're, of course, older now. And my son, my adopted son, lives in Kentucky. My adopted daughter is still in Georgia. But she has a wonderful child, a wonderful grandchild for me. And I show their pictures sometimes on my other channel. And, but, yeah, I had beautiful, beautiful, beautiful daughters, intelligent daughters. We used to tell my youngest daughter all the time, you were counting when you were 2 years old to 100 with your piggy bank. I said, you're going to be a lawyer when you grow up, because that girl could argue with you on about everything. She was a cheerleader. She was, you know, they were good kids otherwise. They were good kids. And, you know, it's hard to believe. It's hard to deal with, even all this time later. My youngest died in 2007, and the older one died in 2017. And you know what's uncanny? Is their biological father died 10 years before my first daughter died. And that was almost to the day. She died on the 21st, and he died on the 23rd of August. It's just amazing how that happened. I just don't know. I think God just put me in a situation where he said, you're gonna be something. You're gonna be something. Well, I hope so. I hope so. I hope you can see me, because this sun is in my eyes, guys. Yeah, maybe I look better half in the dark. Who knows? But anyway, I am going to start doing some self-improvement videos and stuff, like things that people can do when they're seniors and stuff like that, on this channel, and probably on Dear RV Butterfly as well. This particular video here, I'm also going to put on my reselling channel, which is RV Butterfly at Reselling and Thrifting, because I really want all my good friends over there to understand, you know, why sometimes I'm into just sitting by myself, or, you know, and it's gotten tougher since Bert got diagnosed, because I knew something was wrong with Bert when I first got with him, because he was forgetting things, and at that age he shouldn't have been forgetting like that. And I would keep telling the VA doctor, you need to check him, you need to check him. Well, they found out he had diabetes, and then I asked him why they didn't give him anything for it. Oh, they looked at him and said, does it bother you? He said no. They said okay. So they never prescribed anything until I got him to a regular doctor. And that's when they said, oh no, he's got to take diabetes medicine. So we did that, and then that turned into high blood pressure, and the memory started getting worse and worse, and it's hard to explain, you know. And he has his moments now, and yeah, it's devastating, because I just don't want to lose anybody else. You know, it's hard to lose. All these stars have been dying, all these celebrities that, you know, I heard when I was a kid, or they heard, or I heard because my kids heard, you know. So yeah, so that is also something to think about. But I guess we're all mortal, so I try to stay positive as much as I can. Yes, I take anxiety medicine all the time. Gosh, I wonder why. But I love all my subscribers, and you all keep me on my toes, and you all are so nice to me, and you all just, I don't know, you make me feel good. So with that, have a wonderful, wonderful week, a great weekend. Be safe out there, and I love all of you, and thanks for listening. Don't forget to tune in to the next one. Bye.